Hey guys, welcome back to Barry's Corner. It's Emily here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys all the books that I rated 5 stars in 2021. It is July 4th as I'm filming this, a big day for the US, but I think I'm going to be posting this around my birthday, which is August 25th, and that being said, it is the middle of the year, which is honestly so crazy to think about, but I thought since it is the middle of the year that we can remember all the good books that I've read up until this point. So there are 8 books in this stack. One book I don't physically have with me because I got it from the library, and that is The White Book by Hong Kong. It is basically the exploration of grief through the color white, and the inspiration was the author's older sister dying right when she was born. It is so good. It is a translated work. It is very, very short, and one of the best books I've ever read. It is genuinely so good, and I wish that you all will pick it up. It's on my Amazon wishlist, so it's definitely on my mental TBR to buy physically. But before I show you all the rest of the books, please subscribe, comment down below, and like this video. All of my social links are down in the description box below, as well as my Amazon wishlist if you would like to gift me a book. Now let's get on into the video. These are all in the order that I read them. So the first book that I read and gave 5 stars is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. If you've seen any of the other videos I've ever made, you would know that I didn't particularly like the first book in the series, The Cruel Prince. I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it. I didn't like the political aspect being the forefront of the story, and I felt like the book needed more balance. I also didn't particularly like the main character, Jude. I felt like she was a bit annoying, but as the books went on and on, I started to like each book more and more. Like The Wicked King, I really enjoyed, and I gave it 4 stars. And then when I got to The Queen of Nothing, my oh my, was everything just so much better. We were finally getting the balance that I wanted with Jude and Carden and her family, and then the political aspect was still very much at the forefront. It would switch out, and I really enjoyed the balance. I also loved Jude in this book. Like, I felt like she wasn't the weak one. Since the beginning of The Cruel Prince even, she was very clear with what she wanted, and she always worked very, very hard to get what she wanted, but in a nice way. I don't even know how to explain that, but I really loved her in this book. She was so strong and badass, and I loved her as the main character. And then Carden. The enemies to lovers romance in this novel is just so good. So good. The one thing I didn't why do I keep saying particularly? Dude, what is wrong with me? One thing that I didn't really like as well, or that Holly Black didn't do as well in this book than in the first 2 books, was the plot twist at the end. The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King, oh my gosh, the plot twists were insane. And in this book, it was still insane. I just didn't really recognize it as the plot twist. Maybe that was just me. Maybe I was just like out of my mind or something. But I just thought it was very like another scene in the book, if that makes sense. So that was a little bit down, but not like it didn't affect the book as a whole. I still really liked the ending, and I still liked the plot twist. It was still good. And honestly, if you hated The Cruel Prince, literally continue because it's so good. And if you love The Cruel Prince, you're gonna love The Queen of Nothing even more. The next book is a YA contemporary romance called Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. It's definitely so cute. It's one of the cutest books I've ever read, and I know a lot of people shy away from YA romances recently, or have been shying away from YA romance recently, but let me tell you, this is worth it. Last year, at the end of the year, it was on somebody's favorite books of the year list, and it was the only YA romance and the only YA period on that list, and it's for a good reason. It is genuinely so worth it. Basically, it follows a girl named Pepper and a guy named Jack. Their ship name is Pepper Jack, and they are fighting over a grilled cheese recipe. Emma Lord, bro, she did so right by that ship name. It's so cute. But basically, Pepper's mom owns a very famous fast food burger joint, and Jack's parents own a local sub shop, and Pepper's mom stole a grilled cheese recipe from Jack's parents' shop, and so there's a Twitter feud from their local stores, and Pepper and Jack are on the respective sides of that. But they also go to the same school, and they kind of don't really like each other in school, but they're learning to become friends. And then on top of that, Jack made an anonymous app, and they are talking anonymously on the app to each other. And that sounds like a lot. It kind of sounds chaotic, but I promise you, all the levels are just so well done, and they work together so well. Like, nothing is left unturned, nothing is left unsaid or undone, and it's just so good. It's not only complete by the end, but it's so satisfying at the end. I was like, this has done such a great job that I just want more of these characters, and I want to see more of Pepper and Jack because they are genuinely so cute. I love them so much. One of the best YA romances I've ever read, like just period, not just this year but ever. It's so good. I see a couple people talking about it but not enough, so please read this book. So good. The next book I have been mentioning quite a lot on my channel recently, and it is Transcendent Kingdom by Yagiasi. This book, I read it for the first time, and it had such an impact on me. 5 out of 5 stars, so incredibly good. It is so personal to me now that when I recommend this book, it is literally recommending a piece of my heart because it's so beautiful and heart-wrenching and heartwarming and amazing. Basically, it follows a girl named Gifty, and her family moved from Ghana to Alabama, out of all the places in the US. I don't know why they chose Alabama. But basically, it's a story about how Gifty's brother died of heroin overdose, and her mother fell into a depression, and she tried to help her with her faith when she was younger. And now her mother is falling into another depressive episode, and she's trying to now help her, but instead of using her faith, she's trying to help her with her degree, which is neuroscience. So it follows her life back when her whole family was together and they moved and they were dealing with racism and trying to get by as a poor family, and then up until her brother dying and how she had to deal with that. And it really was so beautiful and important, but also it's focused a lot on Gifty's experience in the church, which this throws a lot of people off. And because I feel like a lot of people think that this book is faith versus science, but honestly, it really isn't. This book pushes neither faith nor science. If anything, it pushes them together to maybe make you see a new perspective, but there's nothing really to push you. It is basically just telling Gifty's story and her struggles in the church and the struggles in society and college in general, and her struggles with her family. And it is so good, so beautiful. I saw her brother and Gifty as me and my brother, and it made me cry, it made me bawl. So good. 5 out of 5 stars. Literally, that's this whole entire video, but please pick this book up. The next book is one of the 2 thrillers on this list. Look at me reading thrillers. I never do that, but I'm trying to get into it this year, and I haven't read as much as I want to read, but I've read a few. The first one being Sadie by Courtney Summers. Oh my gosh, this is a YA thriller. They get such bad rep, but this one is so insanely good. It follows 2 perspectives, one who is Sadie, who is trying to find her sister's killer, and then a guy on a podcast who is trying to find Sadie. It's so good. Basically, it's about this girl named Sadie, and she lives in a very rural area, and her mother is a drug addict, and she has a little sister named Maddie. And since her mom is kind of like always leaving, always out, Sadie's the one that really takes care of Maddie, and she kind of sees that as her life's purpose and the only person that she really loves in the world. And so Maddie one day dies, and she's like, I need to find this killer because now that she's dead, this is my sole purpose. Like, I'm so depressed. Like, I don't care if I die. I need to find her killer and kind of make him die. And so it kind of follows her perspective on this whole journey, and then it follows this guy that is trying to find her as well, and seeing him retrace her steps was so cool. And another thing that was really cool about this book was that Sadie has a stutter, and I've never really read a main character that has a speech impediment ever, and so it was really nice seeing how Sadie went through this whole process with that speech impediment and see how that kind of affected her self-esteem, how she just survived, I guess, in this world. It was so good. I do want to put trigger warnings. This is a YA novel, so everything that I say doesn't really dive deep, but the triggers are for pedophilia and child pornography. Again, it is YA, so it doesn't really show any graphic scenes, but it does hint that the person that killed Maddie was a pedophile and did all that stuff. So good. The ending, some people kind of hate it. I loved it so much. Read it. So good. This next book, I think we all collectively know that this book is always going to be a 5-star, but I just it didn't process inside my brain until I actually read this book, which is The Book Thief by Marcus Cusack. I think in 9th grade, like going into 9th grade, this was my summer reading, and I never read it. I did Spark Notes. Sorry about it. But this year I finally read it, and wow, dude, like, the impact that this book has is actually insane. I did not expect to love this book as much as I did bawl my eyes out as much as I did. I did finish this book on a 24-hour reading vlog, so definitely check that out. You will see me crying. Oh my gosh, so good. Basically, this is a book narrated by Death, and Death is following this little girl named Liesel and her whole story, where she is in Germany and she has foster parents, and her foster parents are housing a Jew during World War II. It's so good. And then also, along with that, Liesel is stealing not Jewish books, like stories from Nazi burnings. Oh, it's so good. The friendship and the love in this story is so good. Death is very, very much a big foreshadower and is like, people are gonna die, and he tells you that so many different times throughout this book. And so it got to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be affected by the death that happens because you're literally telling me. But at the same time, that wasn't the part that I cried at. I really cried at the true friendship that was shown through in this book. It was so good, so impactful. I've already said that already, but dude, if you have put off reading The Book Thief as long as I have, read it right now. One of the best books ever. I can't even explain it to you guys. I'm literally speechless because this book is so good. The second to last book I've mentioned in almost every single video I've ever made. And I know it gets annoying, but I read it this year and I gave it 5 stars, so it kind of has to be in this video. And I'm so sorry for putting it or shoving it in your face again. It is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I talk about this book to no end because I love it so much. It's so good. It's one of the best adult romances ever, but not only that, in my eyes, it is one of the best books ever. So good. It is an office hate to love romance between a girl named Lucy and a guy named Josh. And no one can ever live up to Josh, but we're gonna get to that in a second. They basically sit across from each other and they play this hating game where they kind of try to make the other one show any type of emotion. But one day a promotion goes up and they're both in the running for it, and the hating game kind of gets in the way of that. But it also kind of turns into a little bit of a romance, and this book, it's so good. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I've already said this, but Joshua Templeman, bro. No book guy in any book will live up to Josh, dude. Like, no bookish boyfriend will live up to Josh. He is the perfect, the best. I read Sally Thorne's newest book, and yes, Teddy was amazing, but Josh can't live up to him. No book, even any of Sally Thorne's book, will live up to this book, no matter what. So good. I will not talk about it anymore because I shoved this down your throats, but I will shove it down a little bit more. Get it. Now, the last book is also the last book that I read, and I gave it 5 stars. And it's a thriller, and it's a YA thriller. Like, what is... Look at me, dude. Like, I'm going places. It is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Wow. I did not expect this book to be as good as it is. I honestly heard all the hype, and I was like, okay, I'll get it. And I honestly didn't even think I would read it this soon. But then my friend wanted to buddy read it, and I was like, okay, totally, 100%, let's buddy read it together. And we did, and dude, it is so good. The highest I thought I would give it would be a 4 stars, and I gave it a 5 stars. It's genuinely 100% one of the best books I've ever read. Pippa, I haven't even told you what this book is about. Let me tell you what it's about. It's about a girl named Pippa, and about 5 years ago, this girl named Andy Bell was supposedly murdered. She went missing, and she was supposedly murdered by this guy named Sal Singh, who was her boyfriend, and apparently he killed himself when he was a suspect. And so the case is closed, and Pippa was like, that doesn't seem right. I knew Sal. He was such a kind guy, one of the best family friends. He was just not like that, and he could have never killed her. And so she decides for her senior capstone project to open the case again and to truly find out what happened. Wow. Pippa is one of the best main characters I've ever read. The only bad thing I could say about this book is that at times Pippa does seem a little bit young. Like, some of the things she says, I'm like, bro, come on. Like, dude, stop. But aside from that, I mean, it is YA. I don't know why I'm, like, so surprised that she sounds young sometimes. But aside from that, like, Pippa is such a badass girl while still being a girl that is on top of her homework, on top of everything that she needs to do, and so freaking kind. Like, one of the best main characters I've ever read about. There is a romance in here, but it is extremely subtle. So if you don't like romance in your thrillers, do not worry. It is extremely subtle to the point where they could have just been best friends figuring out the murder together. So good. loved it so much. I cannot explain to you how everything in this novel works so well. At the end there was a twist and we thought we were done. Then there was another twist on top of that twist and you were just like, what is going on? It's so good. And I was just like genuinely surprised. I'm not gonna lie. And I think you guys will genuinely be surprised by this book too. I loved it so much. I hope that you guys love it so much. And those were all the books that I read this year and gave a 5 stars. Maybe at the end of the year I'll make another one of these videos because this is halfway through the year. And I love you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, comment down below, and do whatever you want to do. And goodbye.